wasn't as bad as it would be for other people because he had privilege.
What?
That's the kind
And what do you say? And let's actually talk about that term, white privileged male, which both of us are.
I don't like any of those terms.
Well, me neither, but I'm sure people would call me that.
This video already gonna piss me off.
What do you make of those terms, just as they are? Bret Easton Ellis almost named his book that, and he just truncated it to white. And he's echoed some similar things about this. And as a gay man, he's called out a lot of this absolute ludicrous behavior by the gay community. He's been called out by the community for years about not supporting and getting in line with everything they're saying, from Academy Awards to whatever. So yeah, your thoughts?
Well, I don't like when I hear white. I don't like the thing, because it returns us to race when I think we should be trying to avoid it. Because if you open up that chasm, there's hell in there. So I think we should step back from it. But the way in which white privilege is now weaponized just disturbs me enormously, because I know what's going to be played back down the road. I know it already because I see it. There's already a playback happening, and I find it every single country I go. I noticed it for the last 3 years. Everybody's talking about IQ. Everywhere. Not everyone, but everywhere that discussion is starting. And I think what's happening is people are fed up being told they're privileged because they're white, and they're starting to look into what is the ugliest discussion in the world, which is inherited IQ differentials. And that's it. I say this in the way, it's like that might be a weapon some people are going to use to hit back.
It's a bigger weapon.
So I'm like, can we just, before that happens?
This whole discussion is... So now they're kind of trying to talk about the existence of white privilege on an international level as well as a national level. Here's my stance on this so far. Like he's saying, IQ is obviously a large benefit. I don't know where he's going with that specifically. However, I will say this. Just like IQ is a privilege, like you having a child who has a higher IQ, or coming from parents who have a higher IQ, or having that level of intellect is a great benefit. So is economics. And all I'm saying is benefits in society, they do exist and they will affect your life. However, when you're talking about being privileged for being white, like white, specifically white, I think that whole discussion in today's time is not even the discussion to be having. Because let's talk about it. The average white household in America makes $54,000. The average African American household makes what, $48,000? But when you talk about degrees or how many people have degrees, the average white person's degree is a little higher. So all I'm saying is I don't personally think race itself correlates. And if you're talking about privilege, the average white household makes in the 50s of thousands. It's not like it's 100,000. It's still a middle class life, or probably lower. I don't know all the details. All I'm saying is, when you're just saying just you being white is a privilege, it lacks nuance. Economically, if you're rich, that's a privilege. So when you're a white person and somebody says, oh, you're privileged, or you're allowed to do this, but I'm not. For one, we all have the same rights. For two, if you're looking at the average white person in America, the average white person's family in America, they are literally living a normal life. So when you walk up to them and say, oh, you have this privilege, in their mind, they're like, I'm literally just living a normal life. Like, what do you mean? Like, I go to work every day. It's like, that's what I'm saying, bro. And this whole discussion on whether it exists or whether it affects me, it's like a weaponized attack. It's just something used to divide us at the end of the day. But then again, I don't know how exactly I feel about its existence. Like, this white privilege exists. I don't know. We just have to wait to the end of the video.
This whole thing. Can we go back to equal? Can we not have people's skin pigmentation in any situation used against them, including white. And then you get on to
I agree.
male.
I agree.
say the same thing. I can think of lots of communities I've been to around the world where there are plenty of men who have never worked or have worked intermittently, have provided to the extent they can for their families, for themselves, but you think they're privileged? You think they're privileged? You think that white men in the north of England in former mill towns are privileged? You think all my forebears were privileged? You know? And then you get to the level beneath that, which is, who's to call any of this anyway? Like, what the hell do you know about the person you're doing that to? Well, you've got white male privilege. Okay.
Okay.
Work out in every single situation the legitimacy of that claim today. Because this happened the other day with The Guardian. Guardian writes a leader column, the paper's view, about the release of the memoirs of David Cameron. Not a prime minister I'm an enormous supporter of anyway. But David Cameron's memoirs come out. The Guardian attacks him. The Guardian says in its editorial that David Cameron, that the setbacks he had in his life were not real setbacks because of his privilege. And they included the fact that his first son died.
Yeah.
And they said, even that, him sitting at the deathbed of his own son, wasn't as bad as it would be for other people because he had privilege.
What?
That's the kind of dehumanizing.
That's what I was about to say, bro. That's what I was about to say. This whole thing is literally dehumanizing. I was literally going to say the same thing. I am not capping. Like, this whole thing, at the root of it, is dehumanizing. When you look at someone and say, well, you have this large amount of privilege, which automatically means your life is better than mine. Meaning, if we go through the same thing, if we grow, and we have the same exact life, scratch that. If my life is better than yours, your life is still somehow more privileged than mine. That's what this discussion leads to. I'm not saying, oh, does being white give you a larger privilege in a Western... I'm not even talking about that right now. I'm talking about this discussion, the narrative, the undertones of this message. What is it really saying? It's saying that you can have a successful black person, the pinnacle of black success. And I'm saying black for a specific reason. Stay with me. You can have the pinnacle of African American success get on the stage where they are richer, more affluent, live in better neighborhoods than 99.99999% of the entire world's population. And they will say, you, Jenny, Austin, Alex, are more privileged than them because you're white. Even though that you make $40,000 a year, trying to provide for your family, you're working every single day, 10, 12 hours a day to provide for your family. And this person is saying that you have more privilege than them. That's what I dislike about this conversation. Its entirety is dehumanizing. It's the same thing I look at when it's women going against men online, or it's men attacking women online. It's just dehumanizing. Because they have real struggles too. And when you have someone successful who's looking at you, who's still saying, or someone in the same position as you who's looking at you and saying you're a better position than them, when you still have to deal with struggles, what are you trying to get out of that? What benefit does it add to society? Let's get back into this.
Go down if you start playing this game. You end up judging the extent to which a father has the right to mourn his child because you're playing a privileged game. And I think, among other things, this game, it cannot be played because it can never be won, because it can't be solved, it can't be ended. We don't know hour by hour
That's
where
facts.
we might be in this hierarchy. Is the person who inherited a huge amount of money, for instance, I'm sadly not in such a situation myself, but let's say a person who inherited a huge amount of money is naturally privileged. Well, they've definitely got one advantage, they've got a load of cash. Does that mean that they are a privileged person in every other aspect of their life? Let's say they have a terrible personal life, you know? Let's say they have a horrible heroin addict problem, or their child does, or their wife does, or their husband. Where do they go exactly in this hierarchy?
I think this all is subjective. When I hear privilege, I look at it from the perspective of your economic stance in society. And the reason I look at it from that perspective is because I believe economics is one of the not best, but biggest privileges someone can really have, because everything costs money. So that's what I look at it from. So when you have someone who's wealthy or inherited a lot of money, I think they have more privilege in terms of having a higher quality to healthcare, having higher quality to, I guess, better schools for their families. That's how I look at it. So you would naturally have a longer or better life because you can afford more things. So that's how I interpret when I hear privilege. So every time I hear the term white privilege or male privilege or whatever privilege or dog privilege, cat privilege, black privilege, like it's a privilege for everything. Like red privilege, like it's a privilege for literally everything. Like, so for one, it's not quantifiable. How do you define privilege? It changes too often. So when I hear that, I'm like, what's the point of even talking about it? It's like it changes too often. For two, you hear economic privilege. I mean, how could you even argue that? Like, I really don't know. Like, white people don't even make the most money in America, for one. But anyways, I'm not going to talk too much, but it's so much. It's just, what's the point?
What about the very well-off person who's not white?
Yeah.
Where are they in comparison to a not well-off white person? Where exactly do they meet? If you've got 5 million quid and you're Indian, do you meet the unemployed white person somewhere? Who wants to play this impossible game?
And the next thing that's talked about is then the reparation game,
Right.
which is kind of a derivative of privilege somehow.
Reparations!
I've got a couple of fast-track ways to try to stop that. One is my idea. I maybe I could try it out on you that I would favour reparations to try to address the problem of the most prejudiced against people in history being, after the fact, rewarded for the prejudice that's happened to their people. And that's why the American government should send people to every household. Everyone is white, everyone is black in America, and takes the money from them and give it to the Jews. Would that sort everything out? No. I think it might make things a lot worse. But I mention it because
you're choosing one group
right,
for reparations.
But would anyone deny that of all the people in history, the Jews probably had it worst? If you want to play that game, I suggest that people don't. But if you wanted to play that game, you could do that.
Yeah, and some Swiss banks cut some checks about 10 years ago.
Right.
For that.
But you could.
And here's the thing, man. It feels like I'm talking to. I just feel like some of this stuff should just be common sense. When it comes to reparations specifically, like, do people really consider that? Like, do people sit down and be like, yeah, I really want reparations. Like, I really deeply deserve reparations. If you do, I'm going to pray for you. For one, I don't think it's financially even possible. I don't know. Like, what would the amount be? 1,000? Would it be like a stimulus check? Like, you get like 2 bands, 3 bands? Like, and after you get the reparations, would it just be like, okay, no more privilege in society? Does the privilege just disappear? And 3, like, where do we start down the line? Like, do we just start at a random point in history, or are we going all the way back? Like, we going way back. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's like, where does it start? I don't know, man. Where does it start?
At that point, you could do it endlessly.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. Not just from the Holocaust, but the pogroms before, and much more. The expulsion of Jews from England, the expulsion of Jews from Spain. We could do this on everything. I mean, there have been some people recently who actually even advocate. I mean, the craziness never stops. Some people have actually argued that there should be reparations for gays. So, among other things, this is one of the reasons why we can't get the present in a sane light, because we're so insane about the past. Like, we have such a bad understanding of history. Obviously, it's because in America and Britain, well, history is also bad. People learn almost nothing, and they can put almost nothing in context. True. And they suffer from the fallacy that they're better than their forebears because they know things their forebears didn't. Like, I know exactly, I would have been anti-Hitler in 1939. Yeah, sure you would, because you know how it turned out. You know who won.
Yeah.
If you don't know who won, and no one does as you're going through it, you sure you would have taken the easier route? And that's the case with case after case. Why didn't they see the First World War coming? Because they didn't know it was going to be the First World War. And we have this version we do ourselves all the time. And I have a shortcut to that, which is to say to people, one of my editors makes this point to me. He says, assume, because everybody in history did things that we look back at and we say, what were they thinking? A productive thing is to try to work out what we're doing now, and we will be doing things that people after us say, what were they thinking?
That's facts, bro. I feel like some of us are already saying that. Like, we look at life right now, like, what is society thinking? This doesn't make any sense. Like, and when I see it, I'm like, this is just common sense. But anyways, if you have any suggestions for me, comment down below. It's Jojo, and I'll see you on the next one.